Today's story is 100% true. I'm a man that believes in God, so take my advice. Never go against God, because you'll never find true happiness or peace without God in your life. And if you did allow God to leave your life, it's never too late to call him back into your life. It's only late once it's over. Today's story, it's about how this man will become super rich on 100% pure luck and God's will. In the winter of 1748, Timothy Dexter was born in a town just north of Boston, Massachusetts, called Malden. Despite coming from a very poor family, ever since Timothy was a little boy, he knew he was going to strike it rich one day. So at the age of 8, he would quit the second grade and go work on a farm, then move on to work on a leather tannery. He made more money than his whole family ever did, but he knew that wasn't going to make him rich. He had bigger plans. So at the age of 19, Timothy would sell his best suit and move to another Massachusetts town called Newburyport. He believed with their booming economy he would make a lot more money, and he did. But still, that wasn't the way he was supposed to be rich, and he believed he was born to be rich. Timothy would meet a lonely, wealthy widow named Elizabeth Frothingham. He would marry her and become rich overnight and move into her mansion and make himself Lord Timothy Dexter. But coming into what we call new money, Timothy didn't know what to do with it. Timothy is what you and I call new money. You could have money, but sometimes you could never have class or style. That stuff comes natural. So Timothy would look around Newburyport to see what the rich people were doing. And he would find out rich people ran for political office. So he told himself, I'm going to run for political office. But then the voters would find out that he was a second grade dropout and he didn't know how to read or write, and he would lose the election. Timothy wouldn't accept his defeat and petitioned the town to letting him have his political office. The town told him, Sir, that's not how things work. But he didn't understand and continued to petition the town. They didn't even understand what he was writing because his English was so bad it felt like he was writing in Chinese. They had to bring in experts to decipher what he was trying to say. So finally the town gave in and said, let's embarrass this guy. Let's give him a fake political position. They gave him the informant of deer. And they knew Newburyport had no deer. They were just trying to embarrass this guy. Timothy would take this position very seriously and went all over town documenting any deer activity, which there were none. And when his term came to an end, he would take his deer logbook and hand it into town and tell him, take this book and give it to the next deer informer to get him up to speed. The people of the town would open the book and it looked like a crazy person was writing it, so they would trash it as soon as possible, and they would never, ever hire anyone for that position again after what they saw in that book. But anyway, Timothy was ready to move on to bigger and better things. Shortly after, the American Revolution War would break out between America, the colonies, and Great Britain. America would start printing its own money to pay for its troops, called the Continental Dollar. But this money was not backed by gold or silver. It was only backed by the promise that it would have value if America would win the war. That and overprinting of the Continental Dollar led to a huge inflation, and the Continental Dollar would become worthless. So the rich folks of Newburyport felt sorry for the troops, so they would buy these Continental dollars off them for a fraction of the price to help them out. So Timothy would see that, and he said, rich folks are doing it. I better get into this trend. But he wasn't trying to help anyone out. He was investing. So he took all his money and he would buy the collapsed Continental dollar that had basically no value. When word spread all over town that Timothy did this bad investment, everyone was happy. They were like, yeah, 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 yeah. Because no one really liked Tim. He just had money. And no one really thought he had any style or class. He's what we call new money. But guess what, folks? America would win the war. And Congress would keep their promise and back the money, making Timothy one of the richest people in America. Timothy would buy the most luxurious mansion in Newburyport, but Timothy had a problem. What was he going to do with all this money? He basically had no brain. He was just super lucky. Money just kept on coming to him. Then an idea would hit him. Boom! I got an idea. He needed to construct 40 wooden statues of 40 famous men on his front lawn. These statues would consist of George Washington, Napoleon, Thomas Jefferson, and many others, and of course, himself. The inscription in his statue would read, I don't know, something really weird and crazy. It would read, the first in the East, the first in the West, and the greatest philosopher in the Western world. Just strange. As these statues were completed, Timothy would go and inspect them, and he noticed a mistake on the Thomas Jefferson statue. It read the author of the Declaration of Independence, which is actually correct. But he would call the sculptor over. Come here, young man. You did a mistake. It reads the author of the Declaration of Independence. That's not correct. It's supposed to read the author of the Constitution. The young man told him, no, sir, that's incorrect. So Timothy would go inside his mansion, get his shotgun, and go outside and point it to the guy's feet, and time out. Today's everyone's lucky day, because I'm gonna give everyone that's watching this video something for 100% free. I'm gonna give you guys a free prayer. God bless anyone that hits that like button under this video. Alright, time back in. Let's go back. As Timothy inspected the other statues, he would notice a mistake on the George Washington statue, and he would fix it himself. He would go get a paintbrush and just paint over it. Pitt. Because he always confused George Washington with Pitt. The rich folks of Newburyport really started to resent Timothy. He was just too cheesy for them. New money. And he was showing off. So they decided to give him bad investing advice. They would tell Timothy, you want to make a lot of money? Buy warming pans and send them to the Caribbean. Timothy wasn't a smart man, but he knew these people made a lot of money from investing, so he was going to listen to their advice. So he bought a lot of warming pans, and he would send them to the Caribbean. Warming pans are like a frying pan that you fill up with coal and you put it under your bed at night to keep you warm. They are actually perfect for Newburyport because Newburyport had cold weather. But at the Caribbean, it's hot weather. They would be worthless. When the warming pans arrived at the Caribbean, no one knew what they were. But the locals found out that they served great ladles for molasses, and it made Timothy super rich. Timothy would go to the people that gave him this investment advice and tell them, thank you guys, you guys made me more rich. And they were like, inside. Now these guys were really pissed off and really wanted to ruin Tim. So they would tell him, Timothy, you want to make a whole lot of money? Buy a whole lot of coal and send it to Newcastle, England. Now keep in mind, Newcastle, England was the coal capital of the world. There was so much coal there that people didn't know what to do with it. Matter of fact, there was an expression for stupid people that said, that's like buying coal and sending it to Newcastle, England. Anyway, Timothy believed in these guys, so he bought a whole lot of coal and would send it to Newcastle, England. But guess what? Right before his coal would arrive, a huge coal strike would occur, and his coal would completely sell out and make him super rich. And he would go to the guys that advised him and tell them, you guys are unbelievable. You're making me super, super rich. And they were like, "Arr, arr." Inside they couldn't take it. Now these guys would tell Timothy, Timothy, you want to make a whole lot of money, go buy a whole lot of whalebone and hold them. They're going to become very expensive in time. And these guys knew whalebone was losing value each day already. But Timothy believed in these guys, and he went out and he bought a whole lot of whalebone and put them in his basement and saved them there. And wouldn't you know it, in France, it became fashionable for men to wear corsets made from whalebone. And he did it again. He became super, super rich. And he went to these guys, you guys are just amazing. You're making me super, super rich. Now Timothy was confident enough that he decided to do his own investment this time. He would buy all the stray cats of Newburyport and ship them out to the Caribbean. And wouldn't you know it, they would sell out like crazy because the Caribbean had a huge rat outbreak in their warehouses. Now Timothy wondered about his legacy. How would people remember him when he's dead? So he would fake his own funeral and hide. And during the funeral, he realized that his wife Elizabeth wasn't getting upset. So he jumped out and beat her with the cane. Pa, pa, pa. After that, he stopped liking her and would tell people she's a ghost. When people would visit him and see Elizabeth, he would tell them, be careful, she's a ghost. And actually, people accepted that because Timothy was super rich. Before Timothy's actual death, he would write an autobiography, Pickle of the Knowing Ones. Till this day, no one even knows what that means. It was 24 pages of nonsense and very poor English with zero punctuation that it sold like crazy because people thought it was so funny. And with Timothy's luck, you can't go wrong. After people criticized Timothy for not using any punctuation marks, he would print a second edition with an extra page at the end with 13 lines of random punctuations and a note at the bottom saying, go ahead and sprinkle these in where you see fit. Lord Timothy Dexter would pass away in 1806. I'm Ahmed Bassioni, and I wanted to thank you guys for watching today's video. God bless you. I owe you guys one. Please like, share, and subscribe. I'm out of this joint.